Hello everybody, my name is Hero of Warfare, and in this video I was thinking we could talk a little bit of or about confederations in Warhammer 3, especially Immortal Empires, because you have way more factions there. And first I just want to talk about Tomb Kings and Vampire Coast, and then I'll talk a little bit about confederations more in general. So for me, confederations is more about catching the shiny Pokemon, so to speak. You want all the legendary lords, and maybe even the legendary heroes, now that there are coming more of those. And for me, it really sucks when you can't get them all. So with the Tomb Kings, for example, and Vampire Coast, you obviously can't confederate, which is really annoying. You can only get a alliance if you want to, but you don't really want to ally with them because you want the areas. You want all of these like temples and pyramids or whatever. So confederating would be the only way to kind of get the area and the legendary lords. So it's a little bit annoying that you can't confederate. I don't really understand. Maybe from a lore perspective that etc. doesn't serve, but I mean, come on. So my ideas are, once you hit a certain breakpoint or a certain mission or whatever, then confederation should be a mission, almost like a quest, almost like an item quest, but a little bit separate from that. So for example, with the Tomb Kings, maybe you can get, I don't know, 4 books, and then you can confederate one of them. Or once you get 4 books, you'll get a mission. For example, I'm playing as the Exiles of Neheg, so maybe I would get a mission from what's his face, Khemri, Settle the Imperishable, and he wants me to do a certain thing, Maybe he wants me to kill, I don't know, who's his, like, nemesis, Arkin maybe, or some of the Bretonnians, or... I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, CA can be creative here, and you guys can maybe let me know in the comments what your idea would be. But I think that could be a more interesting system, to have a certain thing occur so that a mission to confederate occurs. Because right now, confederating is really boring with the general stuff as well, and very difficult in some cases. So I think with this system where you do a certain thing, for example, collecting the books, or with the Vampire Coast, you could perhaps get a certain amount of the influence that they get. Don't remember what it's called right now, but once you get, I don't know, on the first place there, perhaps, Noctilus might give you a mission to kill Tyrion, or whatever. It doesn't really matter what the mission is. Just make it interesting, make it, a little bit of a story behind it, and maybe you have to defeat a very strong army, or occupy a certain settlement, or maybe even make a unique kind of like quest where you have to do certain things. And it shouldn't be very grindy or very long, just like 1 or 2 things that you have to do, and then maybe fight a battle or something like that, and then you'll be able to confederate. And of course, some factions or some races have a lot of factions, a lot of legendary lords, like the High Elves, the Dark Elves, Skaven, the Lizardmen, stuff like that. So there you would be able to do a lot of these missions and quests, and therefore you would be able to get way more playtime, way more interest, at least in my opinion, so that instead of being very done with the campaign at like turn 30, if you look at my load save, or my loads there, my games, you can see at around 20 to, I don't know, 60, 70 is where I usually, or like 30 to 60, 70 is usually where I get tired. So you have 59, 50, 48, and yeah, I usually just completely lose interest by that time. A little bit more with the new factions, when there's new stuff introduced. But yeah, very early on I become tired, just because there's not a lot of challenge. That's another problem for we can discuss another day. But I think if we were to, or if CA were to implement a system like this, where you get missions and kind of, you know, a way to steer the gameplay a little bit, give you more things to do, then I think most people at least would give it more playtime. So missions that are kind of unique, not like, oh, occupy or raise or sack 3 settlements, none of that. That would be boring as hell. But something that's a little bit unique and maybe a little bit of lore friendly, and something that kind of makes sense, you know? So let me know what you guys think, because the Confederation with like all the factions are very, or almost all the factions, are very boring. I think Norska and the Greenskins, where you can just kill the faction leader and confederate, that's fine. They can just leave that as it is. And maybe like Britonia, where they have the technology and stuff like that. Maybe just leave that. But pretty much every other faction should have some sort of mission that makes it available to confederate, I think at least. And Tomb Kings and Vampire Coast doesn't really make sense why you shouldn't be able to confederate the other legendary lords there as well. Yeah, maybe you can make the argument that it's lore friendly that we can't, but I don't really see a reason to. And the other argument could be, oh, it would be too OP. And I don't really think that. This is on legendary difficulty, and granted it's on turn 132, but like, I'm just auto-resolving pretty much every single battle at this point, and there is no challenge at all. There was a challenge. This is actually one of the most challenging campaigns I've had on Immortal Empires on Warhammer 3, where like both High Elves, Dark Elves, Lizardmen, like everyone came for me when around like turn 50. So I was being kind of besieged from this area, this area, this area. So I actually had like, I don't know, 30, 40 turns where it actually was really challenging. That's the only reason why I have reached 132 turns in this campaign. Usually it gets so easy way before this. So that's a little bit of a detour from the conversation, but I think making the campaigns more interesting is something that CA really needs to work on, and one of the things they can do to work on that is Confederations, and I think the other one is the AI being more aggressive overall, like we saw in Mortal Empires in Warhammer 2, where they actually conquered half the world if you allow them. Like Dark Elves were usually strength ranking number 1 until you became that, and sometimes it was dwarves, sometimes it was greenskins, but I mean now there's never really anything like that. I think, let me just see, in this Blessed Dread actually has 28 settlements, but once you start killing off some of their armies, it becomes like a steamroll, and it's just super easy. So maybe they need to buff them a little bit and make them more aggressive, I don't know, but please fix that as well, CA. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and maybe we can share this with other content creators, like Lionheart, Legend of Total War, Mercy the Mad, Lizardman of Zotek, like all these guys, and let's hear what they think, if they agree with me, or maybe they have a better idea or anything, and maybe someone at CA can hear it, and then we can improve this game, because I love all of the Total War Warhammer games, but I obviously want this one to be the best, so we can continue playing for thousands of hours. So that's it for today. Hope you have a great day, and see ya.